Welcome to the Insiders Roundtable, where I'm joined again by our panel of experts to discuss some of the big issues of the day. In the spotlight this week are SBJ's Chris Smith and returning guest, Mihir Walavakar, CEO of LiveLike. Welcome to you both. Let's get first to the Olympics. Chris Smith, you're scheduled to go to Tokyo at the end of this week. One, how do you feel about that? Two, what are you anticipating?
To tell you the truth, I'm feeling a whole lot of things, Abe. I think I'm cautiously optimistic, a little bit anxious. We're hearing that the logistics, things seem to be working. People are moving through the process, but not without hiccups. I'm anxious to get there and see how everyone else is doing. I know a lot of top sports business execs aren't even making the trip, and those who are going, remains to be seen what they're actually going to be able to do there.
What is your likelihood to be able to get out and network and see other people for meetings in open spaces, or how difficult has it been to schedule meetings?
I haven't scheduled a single meeting yet, so that'll give you an idea of just how hard it is. I think everyone's waiting to get on the ground and find out really for themselves what that's going to look like. I suspect it's going to be a lot of trying to meet people at venues, meet people at the media center, not so much meeting people at hotel bars and restaurants.
And Mihir, as an observer, what are you looking at? Because there's so many issues here. The spectatorless games. You have all the issues with the COVID cases spiking in Tokyo. You also have some great storylines around a lot of these sports.
I mean, look, from a fanless venues perspective, I think pretty much every single sporting event has already gone through that over the past 1 year. So I expect that to happen without glitches. What has actually been really interesting to me is some athletes pulling out because there would be no fans there. Which was, Nick Kyrgios being probably the most visible one, or the one who has made the biggest noise about it. But I was surprised by that, because I would have thought athletes are going there to represent their country and not be as impacted by whether there were fans in the stadium or not. But from a production and logistics standpoint, from all the, some of my ex-colleagues are there in Japan right now to cover the event in virtual reality, and they're part of the production crews. And it's just that everything is so much more elongated. People have to be there so much earlier, quarantine, etc. So obviously things are more difficult, but no issue that cannot be overcome.
I'm anticipating NBC Sports and NBC to do a lot with the broadcast, because they knew the likelihood of spectatorless games was quite high. So I'm sure they have some plans there. Chris, from your sense and talking to your sources, what's the expectation of the performance of these games going into Tokyo?
It's a great question, and I've heard all over the spectrum, right? I mean, NBC was preempting this spectatorless venue, specifically foreign spectators, for a while. So they're going to have a lot of cameras in homes, friends and family. They're going to have a big event in Orlando. They're going to have friends and family down there celebrating together. So I think they're going to replace a lot of what is going to be missing. There's no way to replace a full stadium, fans from all over the world cheering on, their athletes. And so I think that's going to hurt. And we've seen sports ratings down across the board still. So I think there is a little bit of concern, but others have told me, Deidre DeLilly, who runs marketing for Toyota North America at the Olympics, she predicted this is going to be the most watched Olympics yet. And I think, there's a lot of people in that camp who think that the world is waiting for a global event like this to come together.
Interesting you say that. I was out last weekend and just around friends and at dinner parties or cocktails, and people were talking about the games with great excitement. Mihir, what's your anticipation of how these games will perform?
I think they're going to do well. I mean, if the Euros and Copa America are any proxy for what a global event can be, I think those events have done really well in terms of viewership. Especially because it's nation versus nation. We've not really had any multinational events in the last 12 months or so. Whatever we've had has been more domestic championships, even though you guys call your championships world championships. I don't think the world sees it that way. So it'll be fun to see how nations react to these events together.
Well, to your point, the ratings around the Euro on ESPN, very strong. So that's a good takeaway. Let's shift from the Olympics to we're 2 weeks into this new era in intercollegiate athletics, that of name, image, and likeness. Chris Smith, what have been your quick early takeaways so far?
The two ones that I've really taken away, Abe, one, to stick with the Olympics for a moment, I've heard from some agents concern actually for their Olympic athlete clients, that they're going to be coming back from Tokyo, hopefully with some medals around their necks. And now there's a whole lot more competition. So potentially going to be, many more mouths to feed here, and a challenge for the Olympic athletes who are not accustomed to having so many collegiate athletes competing with them. On the other hand, one thing that I've been surprised by, and maybe I shouldn't have been, but I was sort of expecting Nike coming in with millions of dollars, Adidas coming in, these major national brands throwing around a lot of money, right? Big deals for your Alabama quarterback, your LSU quarterback. Instead, we're seeing a lot of really smaller deals, regional deals, small businesses partnering with athletes, a lot of female athletes, a lot of Olympic sport athletes. I think that's, a great sign and really encouraging, the direction this thing is going.
To your point, you've seen just a few national overlays. I think Unilever's done one, and there may be a couple of others. But to your point, very local, very much targeted to a broad range of athletes in terms of who's so far, I would say, leveraging the new rights in name, image, and likeness. And Mihir, I'll come to you because we're seeing, I would say, rights of athletes across sports be amplified.
Yeah, I mean, I think NIL has been such an amplified issue over here, but even in the world of tennis, for example, which I follow much more closely as well, with this event, this weekend's, Djokovic's 20th win and his growing stature in the game, much to my chagrin, and his involvement with the PTPA, whether you like his opinions or not, he's definitely making a lot of noise with the Professional Tennis Players Association. If you see Naomi Osaka's comments and statements and moves around the idea of athlete mental health issues and stuff, there's never been an organization that has been advocating for player rights in the world of tennis, and PTPA is taking a bigger role in that. Whether starting with men's and whether it'll even become a real organization still remains to be seen. But frankly, the whole topic of athlete issues and athlete empowerment is definitely growing, and with every athlete having an opportunity to reach directly to their fans on Instagram, and athletes having more followers than teams and leagues do, it is 100% going to make a difference going forward.
Mihir, you make a great point about the efforts of tennis players, specifically male tennis players, led by Djokovic, to do a trade association. But that has been rife with, I would say, dispute, and it's very fractured because on one side you do have Federer and Nadal. On the other side, you have Novak representing or leading a lot of other players who may not be as high profile. And as we know, tennis players aren't the most, I would say, ones to work together towards a large, greater good cause. So it was a fascinating article in the New York Times Magazine just last week about it that if people haven't read, I'd strongly recommend they read. But there's a lot of politics involved and personalities, don't you think?
Definitely a lot of politics involved. And I don't think the players themselves are on the same page here. Not just men and women's, but even men's players are very much divided. But I feel like all of those things, I mean, everything that you see in the news, private equity is coming in. They're talking about ATP and WTA merging together. They're talking about combined media rights deals. They're talking about how ATP has to distribute more prize money. And I think the issues that the PTPA has raised are actually valid issues. I think the way they went about doing it, the timing was not great. And it also was on the heels of Novak's controversial statements around vaccines and stuff. So it was all warped in a weird sort of a storyline, but there are real concerns there. And I think there has to be a resolution somewhere or the other.
Yeah, even in the article, they admitted that their rollout has been clumsy, to say the least. So let's move on, because it has been an incredible sports month. And Mihir, you hit on between Wimbledon and the last week with the Copa and the Euro. A lot of big stories. NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Final. Mihir, I know you're an NBA guy. What are you watching around the state of the NBA's business?
Look, I'm supporting the Bucks. I've been a Giannis fan for years now.
For weeks?
I think for weeks, you said?
Yeah, really?
For years.
Okay.
I genuinely think that that all the news lines have been nominated by how live ratings have been down for a while because no big market team is in there. But I also think that's a problem that is more endemic to the NBA. I don't see NFL having the same issue, frankly speaking. There's a long story behind it, obviously. But in my mind, all the storylines in the news media about the small market teams are about how they will be losing their big stars to the big market teams. And the formation, I feel like media sort of fuels into the narrative of big market teams. And there is no wonder that people are not really excited to see Devin Booker versus Giannis, even though Giannis is, admittedly, the biggest international superstar along with Doncic. So the fact that the ratings are down, I feel an issue that are self-inflicted wounds in my mind.
I will say, for those individual markets, for Phoenix and Milwaukee, this is their time to shine. You're seeing how those teams can really just ingratiate themselves into a marketplace, and such enthusiasm in both of those cities for both of those teams. So for the long term, the appearance in the NBA Finals for both the Suns and the Bucks will go a long way toward boosting their bottom lines. Now it's time for our predictions and people of the week. Chris Smith, I'll start with you and your prediction.
Maybe this is some of my travel anxiety showing through, but my prediction is that horror stories coming out of Tokyo, specifically around getting into Tokyo, are going to take over the headlines in the next week. I'm hearing already people are taking 5-6 hours to get through an empty airport. No food, no water. It's just station to station, checking your papers, taking your COVID test, sitting and waiting for results for an hour plus. I think, once more and more people start coming through, and especially athletes start coming through in droves, with very big social media followings, we're going to start hearing a lot about this. And I think it's one of those things that's sort of a necessary evil, and there's nothing, to do to get around that, but we're going to be hearing a lot about it. And it's going to create, I think, a decent amount of bad press that hopefully, the lighting the Olympic torch will be able to burn away.
Well, I'm certainly hoping for the smoothest of travels for you, Chris Smith. Mihir, your prediction.
No, 2 predictions, actually. First, Bucks in 7. And second, Novak takes the Golden Slam. Again, much to my chagrin.
God, you really are pain-inducing for yourself. You like living in this torture. My prediction, Major League Baseball hit on something in moving its draft to the start of its All-Star Week. The MLB draft that took place Sunday, July 11th, was the first time it moved from its traditional June slot, and it drew a crowd of about 2,000 fans at a Denver theater and marked the first draft to be held in front of a live audience. There was clearly more energy to the television coverage, and I expect baseball to keep it here for the future because they've been looking to amplify coverage and attention around its draft, and certainly get its draft on a larger stage. Putting it around its All-Star game certainly works, and I think it will stay there on Major League Baseball's calendar. So that's my prediction of the week. Now our person of the week, and Mihir, this time I'll start with you.
I touched on this a little bit early in the segment, but Novak Djokovic, given his 20th win, and as I mentioned, the PTPA's role going forward in the future of the sport, he definitely is my person of the week.
Abe, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to take a few people. I've got LeBron James, I got Maverick Carter, Ryan Coogler, and the rest of the producers on Space Jam. I think, we haven't seen a mega sports movie like this in how long, right? Maybe since 96 when the first Space Jam came out. Warner has over 200 merchandise collaborations. Nike's the obvious one, but you have Crocs in there. You have cereals. You have Kraft mac and cheese. You're going to see Space Jam everywhere. And I think that they're going to knock it out of the park.
It's an advertisement.
It is indeed, Mihir. It is an advertisement, and it is going to be everywhere. Well, my person of the week is sports agent Don Yee, and it's not for anything Don did recently or any major player deals, but more about his foresight, because in January of 2018, Don Yee stressed to me time and again and told me that the most intriguing personality in all of sports business was Shohei Ohtani. And that was just when Ohtani had signed with the Los Angeles Angels from Japan. And Don Yee told me Ohtani was going to be amazing to watch and that he would influence young people around the world as to what is possible by being a two-way player. He also said it was inspiring to see such talent coming from the Asian community. Here we are 3 years later, and Yee's spot-on prediction makes him my person of the week and comes at a time as we need to celebrate the contributions of Asian Americans who are facing such violence, threats, and hate from all over society. So Don Yee, good work in being so forward-thinking. That wraps up our Insiders Roundtable. Thank you to Chris and Mihir. Chris, safe travels. Mihir, you're welcome on SBJ Spotlight anytime. And thanks to all of you for watching us on SBJ Spotlight. If you have questions, thoughts, or comments, please email them to us directly at spotlight@sportsbusinessjournal.com. We'll see you again in 2 weeks for another look at the key issues in sports business. Until then, take care. Thanks for watching. We'll see you down the road.